every time I stepped up into a new role, I very quickly was starting to work for my team. And I think that's one of the biggest, issues I see a lot of people have, no matter whether it's a family business type of situation or anybody moving into a leadership role. A lot of people like to take management and leadership roles for the title. I could care less about titles. If I don't have to carry a business card on me for the rest of my life, I'm good. Like when we get new guys on the team and we got to creatively think new titles for them, like, do we really need a title? Like it doesn't, like titles shouldn't matter.
Sure.
What you do and how you act. And obviously there's a focus, what your area of expertise is. But I've never been a title guy. So I was never the guy be like, I'm your manager. I'm this guy. I'm this guy. I'm like, what do you need from me? How can I make your day better? How can I help you with your process? Are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? So my planning mindset has always been super helpful to work through the business. And it's given me the ability to build this reputation with all the guys on the shop floor.
Welcome to the LandLife podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the LandLife podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Guys, if you're getting value from this podcast, do me a solid. Stop what you're doing right now. Leave a like, a comment. If you're on Spotify or iTunes, make sure you leave like a one-line or a two-line comment. Nothing crazy. Just say, hey, PJ, the guest today, Stefan, was he was an awesome guy, super interesting. Can't wait to hear more. Something like that. Just a one-liner, two-liner, nothing crazy. Guys, at the end of this podcast, Stefan's going to leave ways you can contact him. So if what he says resonates with you, if the story that he tells is like, damn, I want to hear more about this, he's going to leave ways you can contact him. So stick around to the end of the podcast for that. Yeah, guys. Otherwise, Stefan Jürns, did I say it right?
Close enough.
Damn, he prepped me for this too. He prepped me a ton, and he's like, "Don't fuck this up, dude, or I'm going to walk out." That's what he said, word for word. I'm walking out if you mess this up. So, President CEO of LNIC Systems. Dude, this guy's like super smart. It's a metallurgical services company. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
He's a woodworker at SJ Wood Company. It's his amazing stuff. And when he explains exactly what he does, it's going to make what my introduction pale in comparison. So, Stefan, how's it going, man?
I'm good, PJ. Thank you for the time. Appreciate you having me on board here.
Dude, I'm psyched for this one because I've never even heard of this. So this is like some of the stuff you do is super interesting. Now, kind of give us a little, first of all, you're in New Jersey right now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Kind of give us a background. Stefan Jürns, probably not born in Detroit, right?
Nope.
The name doesn't sound like like an American name. So kind of give us a background on you, where you started, and kind of catch us up to where we're at now.
Yeah, love to. And again, thanks for the chance to be here with you. So actually, I'm a New Jersey native, born and raised here. Went to school, University of Delaware. My family's all from Germany. That's where our company started, which is actually a subsidiary of my grandfather's business. My dad started here in New Jersey. So what we do, let's see, I've worked in and out of this company since I was 14 years old. And there's a couple branches of this business. There's a furnace making company that takes powder metal and actually makes it into a hard, dense piece. Then we have a separate business which does all the metallurgical services. So process engineering, if you're not getting the parts out the way they need to, if they're not meeting their densities or whatever, there's ways we can support that. And then, like you mentioned, I have a wood shop that I started when everybody had free time during the early days of COVID, and we didn't know how long that was going to go. So I took what was a hobby of mine, a therapeutic hobby, and found a way to monetize that, for the greater good of the world. And my main products are like what you see behind me, good old, Old Glory, typically made in a variety of different woods and, a different level of projects I get involved into, tables, storefront signs, and so forth. So I've been in and out of this business since I was 14 years old with my dad. Second generation taking the business over here. It was an interesting journey. There's plenty we can talk about that. And I think there's a lot I can offer people when it comes to being a second generation in a business. Because you always go through those dates and those, not dates, but you go through that phase where do the people in the team respect me? Are they going to like me? If I'm going to take this over, how's this going to work? And honestly, the way I approached it was the same exact way anybody else should approach it if you're not part of a family business, is you just work your ass off and you show every single person that you care more than the next guy. You're going to do all the work that's required. You're going to be here early. You're going to leave late. You're going to work, like I said, you're going to work your ass off and get everything done the way you need to. So lots of cool learnings along the way, and definitely a lot of button heads with my dad along the way too, which I think, iron sharpens iron at the end of the day. So we all became better out of the gate with that. But it took some years to get used to each other's styles a little bit, especially since I was moving up in the ranks of the business and got to a point where I took over most of the operations of the company before I'm in the current role that I'm in. So yeah, it's been a fun journey. Learned a lot. Lived in Germany for 6 months, went to school in Delaware, took about 5 years in the middle of working in this business, and worked in planning for finances for Ameriprise Financial for about 5 years. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about what makes them tick, what makes them get up and go to work, and all the different things about that. The good, the bad. I had clients from 21 to 21 to 91. So I saw all these different aspects of life. And the things that made, that were important to people, and had conversations around literally sometimes the most important thing in people's lives, the income they make to make the decisions that they want to do for themselves, for their family, and everything else. So I came back to the business when I was 27 and then worked my way through it. But I brought a lot of knowledge from the finance industry that's helped the company get to where we are today, because before we were just a working capital account business. Now we have savings, we have lines of credits, we have, good working capital business accounts, and a number of different structures and things in place to help the company, survive, downturns, and, be safe and have all the liability insurance that we need to have and so forth. So I learned a lot there and brought it back. And I think, just to kind of close this out, I think if I really stem where I learned a lot of my people management skills it came from that, because I was working with people as an independent advisor. You're working with people and having emotional conversations about things that are important to them. Mm-hmm. And it's not just their money, it's estate planning, it's life insurance, it's, we don't write the wills, but what do we need to put in the wills? So it's having those hard conversations and helping people get things kind of moving down the line. I think it's really helped me in moving through the different roles that I've been in here and leaving the people I have on my team.
So what brought you back to the company then? If you were outside, what brought you back into the company?
Yeah. So when I was 18, I was young, as most people are at 18, and full of it, thinking of myself that I could do things my way. And I, the world was manufacturing wasn't the coolest thing in the world anymore. Finances was cool. So I was like, you know what, Pop, you work like 70 hours a week. This is crazy. I don't want to do that. I want to do it my way. Right. So I went to school, studied finance and economics. Then I came back after school, and I lived at home for a couple of years, and I took a job in manufacturing. Sorry, not manufacturing. I took a job in financial planning. And all of a sudden I started to go to work before Dad, and I started to come home work after Dad. And I was not earning anywhere near the same amount of money, right? But obviously it takes time to get to a state. You got to put your energy into it. But honestly, I kind of lost interest in the finance side of the world. And while I studied, business administration and finance and economics, I've always been the person to think about things. Why are they working, right? Like if a clock's going tick tock, I'm like, okay, well, why? What gear's turning? What's moving? What's this doing? What's that doing? So I've always had this technical side of my brain. So I wasn't using that. I wasn't itching that, so I needed to get back to doing that. So I sat down with my dad in 2007. I was like, hey, I think I need a change. I think I need to do something different. Do you think there's a chance that, I can come back into the business and help continue this forward? Because at that time, actually, after I told him I was going to do it my way, he actually went out, got a business partner, had a whole plan in place to have the business sold off, and then he would leave. But then I think when I came back and offered the idea of coming back into the business, I think his eyes lit up and he got all excited because there was legacy continuation of the business. And when I look at it now, I know he's 82, right? He would still work if he wanted to and so forth, but he's pretty much retired these days.
Yeah.
But I know that he's super excited about the continuation of the business, and it's not in someone else's hands now.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm sure he's super excited about that. But now, you're the kid.
Yeah.
That brings you back in. I know you said you got to work harder than everybody else, but there's still that first day and there's that first week. How did the rest of the team, I guess, accept you back in when you first came back?
Great question. So some of the people I knew, right, since I was little. So some of the guys saw me come in and they're like, oh, cool, extra set of hands. He's going to help us. He's going to do some stuff. A lot of the other people that I didn't know, they were like, oh, cool, here comes the owner's son, right? Here comes the owner's son. I've seen this story before, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't want to actually have a funny story. So when I was 32, I was 5 years back in the business. Like I said, I worked in finance, so I understood how to save money, how to put money away, how to be smart with my money. My first car was a Mustang. And there's a great story about that with my dad, but I'll save that for another time. Yeah. But I've always, when I gave it up after school and I got into other cars and so forth, I always wanted to have another Mustang before I was dead. So when I was in my 30s, I was sitting there saying, I was like, man, I have the resources. I can afford to buy this thing. I wasn't married. I don't have kids and so forth at the time. I was like, I'm going to go look for a car, right? Versus I don't want to be 50, 60 years old and everybody questioning me whether I have some kind of midlife crisis. Like I want to enjoy this now. I don't know if I'm going to live to that time.
Yeah.
So I went out and I bought myself a Mustang, and I went for the Mustang that I wanted when I was 17, but I couldn't get it because it was way too much car and so forth. But I went out and bought a Shelby Cobra, and it's, been a dream car of mine. I've had it, for the last 7, 8 years now. I didn't drive it to work for the first 3 years. I wouldn't want anybody here to see it because I always had the impression that everybody looked at me and it's like, oh, look, the owner's son's milking the company, right? Yeah. Which happens so much and actually truly does happen by second generation people. So for me is like, I just worked my ass off. I came in as like a sales and contracts admin. So I was like the liaison between the customer and the shop, right? So I was like making sure things were coordinated properly and so forth. And then as I saw an area of the business that needed help, I would be like, hey, how can I help here? Right. So shipping was having issues. I've never shipped anything in my life. I just dove in, figured out what the processes were, talked to people in the industry, figured out what we needed to build as process steps. And I built some procedures and so forth. And now we have a good shipping system in our business. Fixed all that. Then, and this is what kind of catapulted me through the different areas, which I think added to the ability for me to demonstrate to people that I'm actually here for them. Mm-hmm. For me, our field service manager left. Well, he didn't leave. His wife took a job in California, and he was a good technician, great with the customers and so forth. So we kept him on board, but just as a service technician who worked out of a different location. So now we were down a field service manager, and the team was all looking around. They're like, who are we going to have take over this role? And I'm sitting there and be like, I'll do it. I know how to work people. I know how to help build schedules, set priorities and all that stuff, because I had to do that every day in financial planning. And I've always been a planner in my life. Like that's the kind of person I am. So I was like, I'll take it. So I sat with our team. I met those guys, and initially they were like, cool, here we got this guy, but at least we don't have to be the manager of the department, I think was their theory to it. Sure. So I literally just came in and I was like, all right, this is what we got to do this week. What do you guys need? What are we prepping for next week? What's the next trip coming up? And I would just take some of their responsibilities away, and I would do them for them. And I would show that I'm here for you, right? I'm here working for you. Obviously we as a business need to do things, but I'm here working for you. What do you need from me to do the job you need? And the other thing that made me build a really good reputation with those guys is while they're in the field, they need help from someone in the shop, and they could be halfway across the world and they need help. I told these guys all the time, call me anytime. I don't care what time of day it is, even if it's a middle of night. If I'm not sleeping through the phone call, I'll pick it up and I'll tackle and try to do what I can do for you. Yeah. So that happened a couple of times, and I really built a better rapport with those guys, as that went through. And then 08, 09 came through the world. The financial crisis took play. And our company went from like $8 million in revenue to $4 million, which was a big hit, right? Yeah. Huge. And my dad, in the spirit of who he is as an entrepreneur, was like, listen, I'm going to go out and find whatever work I can. Even if we get like just barely break even on it, I'm okay with that because that's going to feed my team. And I want to keep my team here. Mm-hmm. So we shifted some things around. We found jobs we could. And then the shop manager was kind of not combative, but like, let's say pushing against my dad, be like, oh, we're not going to make money on that kind of work. You shouldn't get that work in-house. So he kind of worked himself out of the business. So now we had an opening for running the shop. Everybody looked around. They're like, who's going to run the shop? What are we going to do? Nobody was ready to step up from the back. I was like, I can do it. Right. So again, I put myself in a situation where I didn't really know everything that needed to be done other than there's guys on the shop floor. They got to build equipment. They need help. They need prioritization. They need decision-making, and they need to be safe. I can do that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to know how to weld. I don't need to know how to run wires. I don't need to know how to do all that stuff. I just need to be there for them. They're
Yeah.
the experts. I'm just the guy quarterback and facilitating the process.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I stepped up into a new role, I very quickly was starting to work for my team. And I think that's one of the biggest, issues I see a lot of people have, no matter whether it's a family business type of situation or anybody moving into a leadership role. A lot of people like to take management and leadership roles for the title. I could care less about titles. If I don't have to carry a business card on me for the rest of my life, I'm good. Like when we get new guys in the team and we got to creatively think new titles for them, like, do we really need a title? Like it doesn't, like titles shouldn't matter.
Sure.
What you do and how you act. And obviously there's a focus, what your area of expertise is. But I've never been a title guy. So I was never the guy be like, I'm your manager. I'm this guy. I'm this guy. I'm like, what do you need from me? How can I make your day better? How can I help you with your process? Are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? So my planning mindset has always been super helpful to work through the business. And it's given me the ability to build this reputation with all the guys on the shop floor really well. And then it moved me into a chance to go to Germany to work with a customer of ours to learn all that really fun science stuff that happens before our equipment.
Yeah.
And then I came back and I was doing all the operations as GM of the business, and I did everything from, running the service team to the shop team, to the quality team, to the engineering team, to the front office team. It was all under me. So I gained so much insight into how it all works. And I've done pretty much everybody else's job as I've grown through the business since I was a little kid. So that's given me this ability to have a conversation with somebody who needs to do something in the business, but I know what they're doing.
Sure.
Not what I think they should do. I know what they're doing and I know the challenges of doing it. So it gives me the ability to have a conversation with them at a different level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In a respect level of, I get it, what you have to do. And I know it's going to be hard, but this is what we have to accomplish. So let's figure out the path.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's super interesting. A lot of people, I'm assuming a lot of people that were, I guess, whose fathers or parents ran a business started at the top. So they weren't able to have a real relationship with everybody throughout the company, right? Because let's say I'm I don't want to say a lower guy, but I'm a guy on the floor, right? I'm a guy in the field, frontline guy. You don't know shit about what I'm doing. How would you ever tell me about what I'm doing? But you did it. And one thing I think is super interesting is you said yes, right? And every level you've said yes. So I think it's super intimidating when you're maybe on the floor and they're like, hey, we got a position open. That guy that had the position, dude, that guy was really smart. There's no way I could take his job, right? I'm not that good enough, but you did. You said yes. You said, yep, I'm actually going to do it. And I'll jump in. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And then the next position came open. You did the exact same thing. And as a father, I'm sure you made your dad like pretty damn proud to see his kid jumping up and saying yes every time. Even though he knew you didn't know how to do the job, he's like, that's great. That's awesome. So he made a good decision,
without a doubt. And I think a lot of that's come from, I've been captains of, sports teams in my past and so forth. So I've always had to be and I've been in a leadership role throughout my life growing up. So it's it's uncomfortable to be a leader, but you can have and find comfort in having the ability to be in that role. Like I find I'm super grateful, especially over the last couple of years with the way the world's been and all the decisions we've had to make as business owners. I'm super grateful that I was in the ability to be in that spot to allow us as a company and as a team to make decisions together versus being told what to do all day long.
Yeah.
So I've brought this theory of let's do this as a team. I've always been a team guy, right? So like if you go through the 6 human needs, I'm big in contribution. I love doing things together as a group. I'll do them as myself if I have to, but I love that feeling of accomplishing things as a group. So I've always brought that into every single role I've had. And even times I've been asked to be a captain of teams in the past, while I kind of wanted the role, like even moving through some of the business roles that I've had here, I didn't specifically want those specific roles, but I knew going into that role was going to make me a better person. It's going to give me more insight into the business. And I need to know that for when I'm in the role that I'm in today.
Yeah.
And it gives me that ability to have, and I've even been told by some of the guys here, like I'm one of the more engaging presidents and owners of a company than they've seen in some of their working past. Like it's a funny story. Probably 3 years ago, we had a welder on the shop floor working on some equipment right next to a furnace that it was a Saturday morning, and there was a chamber door that's on these furnaces. It's a pressed piece of stainless steel, and it's really nice looking. It's polished and so forth as best it can be. But we had an older furnace that was getting refurbished, and the door didn't look that good. And had some scratches on it and all that stuff. And back when I was like 17 years old, one of the jobs they gave me was sanding these doors down and making them look nice. So I'm walking the shop like I do all the time, and I always look at the equipment that's going out the door, because this is $500,000 to $1 million piece of equipment. This is a Ferrari of the industry kind of thing. So I want to make sure it looks as good as it works. So I'm out there. I put a couple masks on, a glass. I put a grinding helmet on and so forth, just so I don't get dust back in my face. And I'm sitting there cleaning the door, and I'm making this thing look as good as possible, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this newer welder comes up behind me, and we've forged a good relationship with each other. And I go, "Hey, John, what's going on?" And he goes, "Stefan, you?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, what's up, man? How you doing?" He goes, What are you doing out here on the floor?" I'm like, "I'm cleaning the door." And he's like, "In 20 years of me working, I've never had the president of a company on the shop floor doing work." I'm like, "Well, that's just how we do it around here. We do it different."
I don't think many people have.
Yeah, it's just, I do it different, man. Like, I don't like sitting in my office all the time. I want to go turn wrenches with these guys for two reasons. One, I like it. And two, it builds a reputation and a relationship with the guys that one day you might have to go out there and be like, "Hey, I need you to do something for me pretty quick.
Yeah.
Can you help me out?"
Yeah.
And if you see that you're willing to do it, they'll do it with you.
Yeah. It's extreme ownership of the company you work for, whether you're the president or you're the first week guy out there. You take ownership of it, like it is yours. Now it is, but initially it wasn't, right? So you took extreme ownership of it. Real quick, explain to us, because I know anybody who's listening to this is like, "Okay, what the hell does this guy do? What the hell is he talking about? Okay, we got factories, we got furnaces that are like a Ferrari of the industry. Like, what are we talking about here?" All right, give us a third grade explanation, because you're talking to guys like me. So give it a third grade explanation as to what it is you guys do.
Sure. So outside of the wood shop stuff, which it's a lot of
we'll get into that in a second.
Personal life stuff. So what we make is what's called a furnace. It's called a debind and sinter furnace. So it's not what you have in your house. While I certainly can help fix your furnaces at your house, that's not what my business is. So we're not the Train and the Carrier and all those other guys, right? So what our furnace does is it takes a molded or 3D printed piece of metal, and at the end of the day hardens and densifies it. So in the injection molding world, like you would mold plastic, you can mold metal powder, but you can't just mold the metal powder, because if you open the mold, the powder falls out. You need something to actually hold the powder together. So you mix it with plastic and wax, and then you mold it. So now you have your piece. It looks, similar to what a plastic molded piece would look like, but you're not done there, right? You need to get all that plastic and wax away and fuse the metal together. So the analogy I always like talking about is kind of like sitting by a bonfire. You've got a wet log that you want to dry out. You put it next to the fire, and at some point when that log gets warm enough, water vapor starts to create a smoke look coming out of the log. That's what's called in my industry debinding. I'm doing the same thing with my metal piece. I'm heating it up where the plastic becomes a vapor and it comes off the surface of the part. And then in our furnaces, we're always sweeping this gas across the product to pull that stuff away. And then once that step is done, we're going almost to the melting point of the metal. So the analogy I like to use is two droplets of water on a table sitting right next to each other. If they're close enough, they'll bond and become one drop of water. I'm doing the same thing ultimately with metal powder, but I don't want to go full liquid, because if I go full liquid, the part's going to basically become a puddle in the furnace, right? So I just want the skin of each little piece of metal powder to get soft, and it grabs the one next to it, grabs the one next to it. And in that process, it's densifying. And now you have a piece that's 98, 99% dense. It's like starting with a raw block of metal and machining away everything to the final shape, but now you don't have any waste. It's a net shape technology. So as you mold it, the plastic and wax comes away, and in the process of becoming hard, dense metal, it's actually shrinking, because all that plastic and wax was a void that you now are shrinking that part down. And now you have your finished piece. And it could be a watch on your wrist. It could be, if anybody wears Oakleys or Ray-Bans, the metal O on an Oakley is actually processed in my furnace. If you have aviators from Ray-Ban, the little hinges on the side where the wire frame and the earpiece meet, that little hinge is made in my furnace. If you've recently had a hip replaced, one of the companies that makes hips or knees uses our furnace for that. It could be plane parts, automotive parts. If you shoot guns, there's a very high chance that one of the parts of the guns were made in our furnace. If you like companies like Glock or Kimber or Taurus or Sig Sauer or any one of those, or if you've had dental brackets, your braces on your teeth, in the last 15 years, there's an 85% chance they came through our furnace.
Wow. Okay. See, I told you guys this guy's super smart. And I told you it wasn't going to be like this is some smart guy shit. So anytime you're looking around and you're like, who makes this stuff, right? Like the Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Yeah.
Like just the little pieces. Who makes this stuff? And that's so interesting. So your furnace makes it. So you personally aren't making Ray-Ban sunglasses, right? You're developing the furnace to get to develop these products. Is that right?
Right. So the customer's molding or printing those parts depending on the technology they use, and then they use our furnace to actually turn it into a hard, dense piece of metal, and then they're either polishing it or any really, really tight tolerances and so forth. They might machine those later, but it's just a skim coat versus hogging a whole bunch of material away. So you're getting a shape that you probably can't make another way, or it's way too expensive to make another way, and then you're finishing it however you need to finish it. And any pair of eyeglasses that have some form of a metal hinge between the earpiece and the frame, more often than not, that piece is injection molded metal.
No kidding. It's so funny. When I was younger, especially, we talk to these big guys, you're like, you know what? That little hinge there, whoever made that, I bet that guy's super rich. I bet that's making Velcro, the things that you don't think about, right? These little parts of things that we use every day. That's what you're building and they're making, and that's awesome. So, okay, you have this a furnace. How many furnaces are we talking that you guys have put together?
Yeah, so on average, prior to 2020, we've shipped anywhere between 8 and 12 a year.
Okay,
and those were pretty good years for us. Some years we had 4 to 6, some years we had 7, and then we had some other ancillary smaller pieces of equipment we've done. In the last 3 years, we've shipped over 17 a year. Okay. So we've gone from what was almost 9.5 million to almost 19 million in business in the last 3 years. It's been a hell of a growth.
Okay. You got this great product, right? You got this thing is flipping amazing, right? How are you getting the clients? I mean, especially initially, like how are you out there marketing yourself, marketing your company, saying, hey, I can make, parts. I can make all these little parts of sunglasses, of guns, of all this. How are you marketing that?
That's a great question. And it's probably one of the more, let's call it unique, challenging marketing things to market because it's super low volume. And I can't just sell it to you if you don't need it. Or if you already have a furnace in house and you're getting okay product, you're not just going to go replace it with a new one unless either you're growing or the old one is costing you more than it's benefiting you. So, the best way we've marketed our technology is we've gotten really good relationships with all the people that make the printer or molding machines that need a furnace to finish the product after it's molded or printed. So we've got great relationships with them. They recommend us to people, but the way we forge that relationship is actually through our sister business called DSH. So DSH stands for Debind Sinter Heat Treat. And what that company does is we have all of our equipment in-house, and we use that equipment to demonstrate how it works, do small lot work for people that might not want to buy their furnace yet because it's too big of an investment versus the amount of product they're selling. Yeah. We do experiments on new material, experiments on designs, and we also get involved in the process of the engineering of everything that takes place, right? So from the time you design a product or what you're thinking of designing to the way you're shipping it out your door, I can help with every single part of that process chain. Okay. Not just from myself because of the things I've seen all of our customers do, but some of the guys that I've added to our team here who I've known in the industry for a long time come from part making companies. So now, they used to make parts all day long. They've gone through all the trials and tribulations and struggles and challenges of making things. Now they're out, instead of doing that at one business, they have an opportunity to do this at multiple businesses across the world. So what we've done is we've built up, and this is truly the way we market our technology. We market it by educating people about the process. And by educating people about the process and knowing how there's so many different types of furnaces out there, ours being the most flexible, let's call it the Ferrari of the technology, because you can do so many different metals and so many different atmospheres, where all these other furnaces have some variables that make it harder to do that. People start to realize the capability of what one furnace can do versus another. And we're just opening the doors for people to see all the different things through the full size, let's say full size glasses, so they can see everything. There's no blinders on. So they see everything and they just make their choices based on the options that they want to have. And then the truth, the way we actually, like, my favorite way to sell it, and I've done this many times, is we've gone heads up against some other furnace companies. What I tell companies is, like, give me as many parts as I can use to fill up a furnace. I don't care if it's 100 or 10,000, right? Depends on your size. I'm going to run them for you. I'm not going to charge you. You're going to take them back and you're going to look at the quality of all the parts, front, back, middle, all over this furnace. And then compare that to what you get from some of these other guys and let that help make your decision for you. 9 times out of 10, I'd say 9.9 times out of 10, that works.
Okay. Wow.
So
So you're actually going out there presenting then, correct?
We go out, we go to workshops, we present, we talk to people. I do a lot of LinkedIn marketing myself. So for me, like I said, education to me is my sales approach. So I haven't done it for the last 7-8 months because we're redirecting the way we want this marketing plan to go. But for the prior 2 years, I did something called Metal Monday posts on LinkedIn. Every Monday I would make a post, and that post would be something about the process, whether it's how to extract the plastic, how to maintain equipment, anything that had to do with the whole process chain. I would take one little snip of that process and I would make a post about it. The next Monday I would do something similar, or I would theme the month. Like, how do we get plastic out of the parts? What's all the things you got to think about? Every week there was a new theme or a new topic around that monthly theme. So that's additionally ways that we're doing that. Being at trade shows, being in front of people is also the other ways that we do that. But it's truly just going over and above to help people.
Yeah.
Over and above to help people, going out of your way, even if it costs you a little bit of money, because it's going to eventually come to you on the backside when you sell your product. Or it's going to give you an opportunity to sell your product that you didn't have before.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's really cool. I was kind of curious as to how you can't really make a bunch of TikTok. I guess you could make a bunch of like TikTok videos about your furnace and, but I mean, who you're getting to the right people, I would imagine is incredibly, like, it's very niche. It's very specific.
Yeah, LinkedIn is more my portal for selling things from like a social media point of view, where like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that I don't have an audience that needs that level of volume. Like, we get calls, I get calls specifically from people all the time. It's like, hey, my name's, so-and-so from XYZ company. I can put you in front of 10,000 leads. Are you interested? It's like, no.
No.
Maybe one of those people would want something we do. So it's funny because I actually use those moments when I have enough time, like 4 or 5 minutes, I'll actually talk to that person and be like, listen, if you're going to call somebody out of the blue and you're going to offer all these access to leads, like, do a little bit of due diligence on what they do before you do that, because that theory doesn't apply to everybody.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot who said this recently. I think it was on one of Ed's podcasts, either the one he had with Stephen A. Smith or somebody else recently, but he was talking about preparation. Like 20 minutes of preparation before you make a phone call to somebody or get involved in a call or a podcast or whatever you're going to do, a meeting. That 20 minutes of time will be light years of benefit for you versus coming in cold.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to go make a sales call about your marketing approach, like, just take a couple minutes, go to the webpage, know who you're calling, look at their LinkedIn page. Like, LinkedIn is today's resume. Anybody who's not using LinkedIn in today's world, especially people that are looking for jobs and so forth, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to give a professional sense, show what things you like and that you follow, and then what you like or post about tells a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
Are you an educator? Do you follow these kinds of things? Do we have something that we have in common? LinkedIn is today's resume. Anybody who just hands a paper resume to people today it's old school.
Behind the 8 ball. Yeah. And I think it's interesting too. You're we met through a guy named Patrick Robertson, right? Because we're both in a group called Arte. Crazy enough, I never get people from Arte on this podcast. And so I think it's very interesting that you are marketing, you're networking with a very niche group of people too.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would advise to a new person or a person looking to get into the business world is to jump into a group like that, because you're going to learn about people like you, right? And you're going to meet people that are it's not like throwing your name out there and, like you said, with a big huge resume and saying, this is who I am, everybody, what should I do? What business should I join? Like what you did with your sales and with your networking, as you joined a specific group full of specific people who could probably benefit you and your business. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I mean, so we as a company, like, we go to trade shows for two reasons. One, to see all the customers we have or potentially meet new ones. But two, in our industry, if you don't show up to a trade show, people might think you're out of business.
Wow.
So like it's that side
There's
of the market.
That few people in the industry that we know, you notice when that guy's missing.
Yeah. There's been other, some of our competitors, in the last couple of years, we haven't seen them. Now that could be COVID related, or, maybe I'm killing it in sales and they're not, and that's why they're not there. Who knows?
They didn't want to show up, man. They just didn't want to stand next to you.
Yeah, man, it's true. And for anybody, it doesn't matter what business you're in, like, get involved with people that are in your specific industry or network or whatever it is. And don't walk in and be like, I'm here now, everybody give me what I need or what I deserve. It's like, you don't deserve shit, right? Like, you deserve what you get after you've earned it. You got to put the time in to earn it. And that's through just walking up to somebody and having a conversation of like, hey, how are you? My name's XYZ. This is what I do for a living. What do you do? And just getting to know people. It's funny. So a group of our friends from Arte recently did an event called Evolve, right? Unofficial Arte event, but they did it. And when I told all the guys that were guides there, because they're all friends of mine, and I called them before, I was like, I just want to let you guys know something. Really proud of you. I'm really excited for you guys to be part of this group and to be leaders in this group and act as guides. But the best part of what you're getting involved in is the thing you do not know. It's the unknown of the conversation. The unknown of that conversation is usually where the good comes out of.
Yeah.
And it's the things you learn the most. So be excited about the unknown. Be excited about the conversation that you haven't had yet, because it could be the thing that changes your life, changes your business, changes everything. The unknown is okay. The unknown is actually great.
That's so interesting. That's because a lot of people go into something afraid of the unknown, right? Because they've grown up and everything new and scary, they avoid it. They just stay away from it. But you're right. When you go in and it's what you learn. It's the material you're learning, right? Is the unknown. Or
it's the conversation you have. Like, let's just say it's me and you, right? You're in the real estate business. Let's say I'm in the real estate business. I walk up and say, PJ, hey, how you doing? I'm Stefan. It's nice to meet you. I get involved in commercial real estate. What do you get involved in? This is what I do, right? The conversation might be done right there. There might not be anything else to talk about, but now hey, this is Stefan. He does commercial real estate. In 3 days from now, you could have a project in the area that I live in that's involved in commercial real estate. And, oh, hey, Stefan does commercial real estate in that town. Maybe I should link him up to that. So it's go in with the expectation of purely meeting people and opening conversation without trying to take. The take will come just by people knowing who you are.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I was thinking about this on the way. I drove back in from the gym today, and I was thinking about this exact thing. When I was in, let's say, high school, I remember the guys, the class president, the quarterback of the football team. I played sports. I was on the teams, right? Sometimes I was in the games, but I was on the teams. The higher up guys, I was always somewhat intimidated by them, right? So I would just avoid it. We just wouldn't talk to them. The kids that got straight A's, the smartest kids in school, just didn't talk to them because I was like, he's not going to want to talk to me. I'm an idiot.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're doing. Yeah. Now, as what we're trying to tell you now is go talk to that guy, go talk to that person. You're going to learn something from them. And they're usually not as, they usually want to talk to you as well. Like the big guys in real estate, at least, when I go up and talk to them, I'm like shocked at how much they just want to tell you stuff, right? They're like, here's what I do. Here's, oh my gosh. Yeah. Then here's what I'm doing next. Then they're like interested in you. Go out there and talk to those people and meet those people, and you're going to be surprised at what comes of it.
And it's okay if the conversation's short. It's okay if it gets awkward. It's okay if it's, hey, this is what I do. That's what you do. Oh, cool. What do you like to do? Oh, I don't really have many hobbies. Oh, okay, cool. See ya. That's okay. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. At least you've taken one step, one rep at introducing yourself. That's huge.
Absolutely. You do a lot of interesting things, Stefan. So now, not just metal.
Yeah.
Like right behind you, there's an American flag, It's made of wood, and out of nowhere, you were just like, I'm going to start doing this. So kind of explain like what got you started in woodworking?
Yeah. So it's funny. I can correlate both things back to my dad. So my dad got me started in this business, right, when I was a little kid, because he gave all his kids, he's got 4 kids, 2 from a first marriage, and then there's me and my sister. He gave all the kids an opportunity to put some money on the table and he'll match it and you can get a car with that money, right? He'll match you on it. None of the girls took him up on it. I was the one who worked my ass off from 14 to 17, saved up $7,500 and put that on the table. And he's like, oh shit, I almost made it. I almost made it. So he had to match it. And I got myself a Mustang as my first car. And I was super excited about that. Right. So he got me involved in this. And when I was a real little kid, probably like 10, 11 years old, in middle school, they had a Saturday morning workshop. And that workshop was a wood workshop. And my dad actually taught that class. So we made little wooden sailboats, little, toolboxes and little birdhouses. And he showed kids how to use table saws and band saws and sanding wheels and all that stuff. So it's always been an interest of mine to try to make things. And I do this all the time. If I can make it and I have the time and the energy and the equipment, I'll make it first before I go buy it, because I find a lot of pride in actually like right now today, I'm sitting on a 4-foot by 7-foot black walnut waterfall table. That was the first time I've ever made a waterfall table and it turned out beautiful, but it's the first time I've ever done that. And I'm working on it every single day. And there's that little extra when I do my work here, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not a table I bought, it's a table I made.
Yeah.
So it really gets me excited. So what started this whole wood shop business was right in the beginning of the pandemic. My mother had a pallet flag back home. So you guys have probably seen this at people's houses. They lean a pallet up against a tree outside their property and it's got an American flag on it, or what is relatively close to an American flag.
It's got like 8 stars on it, but it's still an American flag.
Yeah. One's leaning, one of the pallets kind of bent down and stuff. It looks a little sad, but it's still a flag.
Yeah.
So my mom had one of those at the house and it was kind of just wearing down over the years from the weather. So I was like, I'm going to make her all the parts. She's home. It's COVID time. Like there's nothing to do. I'm going to let her paint all this. So it grew from, I'm just going to cut these parts and make it for her, to finding an Excel spreadsheet that gives you specific dimensions based on one characteristic. So whether it's the X, the Y, the star size, the union size, it gives you all the other dimensions to it. So I was like, oh, so there is a precise, which I believe there was, right? Because it's the American flag. I would imagine they put a lot of time and energy into how they design it.
I'm sure.
So every single thing about the flag, the width, the length, the short, the long, the union size, the star size, and everything has a specific dimension based on one factor. So I ran with that. I was like, all right, I'm just going to cut all the parts for her. So I was looking around online and seeing all these different flags. I was like, oh, people do some mitering of the edges. They do this, they do that. People stain them. Oh, they burn them. Oh, when you burn it, you can bring the character out. And I started learning all this stuff about how to make these flags. So I was like, forget it. I'm just going to make it, because they were getting their house redone. I was going to make it a housewarming gift.
Yeah.
So I made the first one, and I put all my time and energy into it. And I sat there and I was looking into my garage. I was like, I really don't want to give this to them. I really like it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll make a second one for them, because I really want this first one. And I was like, boom, light went off. I was like, if I like it so much, other people probably will like it just as much as I do. And there's plenty of people that make flags all across the world, right? Yeah. All over the place. Each one of them are slightly unique. Some are just thrown together. Some are burned after they stain them. Some are burnt before they stain them. Like there's a lot of difference and variables to it. So I came up with a way to make it that is, I believe, super artistic in a way. It's got an automotive clear coat on it, so it has this kind of shinier finish to it. It can be satin if you need it. And I just ran down this road of making this flag, and I gifted it to them, and they were super, super excited to have it. And I was like, all right, cool. I told a friend about it. She goes, I want one. So I was like, now it just grew. I was like, I can either just do this on the side and have people Venmo me. But then
I was about to say, it's a lot of time involved in this too.
And again, beginning of COVID, nobody knew how long the world was going to be in the state it was. I was like, let's just make a business out of this. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. You got to take a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I ended up making a business out of it, and I called it SJ Woodco. And I've made, oh my God, I think 60 flags by now, 4 different side projects, a shadow box. I just made a huge 5x5 entry storefront signage for a really, really cool project one of our Arte brothers is doing out in Michigan. Like I said, I made my table. I made a reception / work desk for my sister and her business partner who just opened up a dog training business. It's big, beautiful 7-foot live edge black walnut, shiplap sides, black walnut tabletop. So, and this is just a side hustle. This is like business number 4 that I run.
Yeah, you're a busy dude, man. That's not easy either. That's I mean, I can't even, like I was telling you earlier, I gotta put things together in my garage. And if I hit a hammer against a nail and I'm hitting it a few times, I look around, I'm like, this looks like complete shit. So I just find someone to do it for me. I find guys like you to do it for me. So,
yeah, there's construction and then there's carpentry, right? I've always tended, I like construction. It's fun, but I've always tended more towards carpentry because there's that artwork in it. Like, I don't really classify myself as an artist, although maybe I should nowadays with what I'm making, but I really enjoy that whole thing to it. Like cutting wood, like the burning process, like the speed you burn it at takes the different character of the different grains of the wood. Like, that's therapy for me, man. That's truly why I do it. Like, it's the process of thinking through what's needed, cut, fabricate, put together. Now it's a bracket, or I've made a bed. I've made like all kinds of different things. Like my first bed I had in my house when I moved to my house when I was 27 was a bed I made.
Wow.
And just, I mean, it's not like a, like a sleigh bed or anything fancier. It's just like a platform style bed.
It's the mattress. You put the nice mattress on the bed. So it doesn't really matter.
That's really the only thing that matters at the end of the day is how comfy the bed is.
That's right. I can imagine a lot of like fire departments, police departments, any government agency would love to have something like that.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of guys. There's a guy that's in New Jersey. His company is called Veteran Wood Co. This dude I follow him all day long. He makes such cool stuff. He's got a beautiful big CNC table, in his shop garage that he does. It's his full-time business. So if this were me switching businesses, I would put full effort and focus. Like, I don't sell anything on Etsy. I don't do any kind of side, website, Shopify kind of approach. This is all word of mouth, me selling these projects and a couple of posts here and there on Instagram. And, it's done okay. I mean, it's not the money maker right now. And it's a time filler. It's something I do for fun.
Would you ever think of doing something like that? Like marketing it a little more, pushing it a little harder?
I would like to. So, we're in the process right now. Our manufacturing business for the equipment, the industrial furnaces, has done really, really well over the last few years, and we need to grow. We're going to be moving from New Jersey down to North Carolina over the summer, hopefully. Hopefully there's no more delays in the project build out because it's a new building. But once we get down there, we're going to have a lot of extra space because everybody always told me that's moved into new plants that you outgrow it quick. So we got a little bit extra space, and going down there, it made sense because it's half the rent rate down there than it is up here.
Warmer too, a lot warmer.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm a winter guy, so I'm sacrificing that part of my personal life. I like to go run to the mountains in the snow, and we got snow coming here today right now, which is really nice. But that's for the team, right? I'm sacrificing. I picked that location for the whole team, and there's a lot of greatness that's going to come from those. We got a little bit more than half our team joining us in the move, which is really, really cool. But we got a lot of extra space down there. So SJ Woodco is going to form a little home down there. We're going to get some more equipment, and I would love to get a younger apprentice in there to start doing some work on the side. I'll work on some projects too. And if I can get myself to continue to build LandLife the way it's doing, where I don't need to be as daily involved and I can dedicate some time towards SJ Woodco, that would be a dream of mine to do. I love making things out of wood. Everything about it, the character, the individualization to it, every piece is unique, right? And it's truly artwork. So for me, it's exciting, and we'll see where it goes. I need to make sure the bigger business is doing what it needs to do and it's growing the way it needs to. And when that becomes something, I don't want to say more sustainable because it's sustainable now, but when I can dedicate more time off to a different project, then I'm going to start doing that.
And I think too with a business. Yeah. With the business running so well as it is, you're able to not stress about the work you're doing with the wood, right? It's not like I have to get it out the door and sell it today. So you're able to take your time and learn maybe a new strategy and, how can I tweak this to make it look a little bit better, a little bit nicer, versus, hey dude, I got to sell this today or we don't make rent. It's a huge difference.
And you can go online. I mean, people make flags from anywhere from $100 to a couple $100. Like, I don't sell flags for a couple $100 because of the amount of time and energy and how well they look when you're standing in front of this thing. It's a piece of art. right?
Yeah.
It's not just a wooden flag that a lot of companies make them, and they make them pretty good. Don't get me wrong, but there's a difference between people that make art and then people that just take wood and, make product out of it. While that in and of its own right is also art, there's classifications and levels to it. So there's a lot of care and energy that goes into each project that I make, and therefore, again, it's not there to pay the mortgage and all that kinds of stuff. It's there to give me a little bit of therapy, and while I'm doing it, might as well make $1 or $2 while I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's super cool. You have a few cool, really interesting, cool things that you do, man. Like until I talk to you, I would never. I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody even knows what the furnace is, and then woodworking afterwards is just like two different crazy, super interesting things. If I wanted to buy a flag, or if I wanted to contact you to have wood made, how would I do that?
So I got a website. It's sjwoodco.com. Most of the flags are on there. If you have a custom project, there's a custom link button. You can just jump on there and just email me. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll make anything so long as I can and I have the time. If I don't,
I want an arc.
I want
an arc, Stefan. I want an arc.
Okay, we can do that. It'll take a little bit of time. It's not 2 to 3 weeks.
I'm not confident with the way the country's going. I need an arc.
So for me, it's what I really like to do, and the thing that I've driven with the business is, obviously I've narrowed my flags down to a process that makes them look the way they look, but I've worked on some custom flags for people too, like a half police, half fire flag for somebody, and talked it through with them what they wanted to look for. But for me, it's like, if you give me something you like, but you want some adjustments, tweaks, and customizations for yourself, let me know what that is, and I'll draft it up in SketchUp and send you a copy. And then if you like it, let's go forward and let's make the project work. It's not going to be there in a week. This is, like I said, it's not business number one. So it gets its attention, but it might not get worked on every single day unless there's a deadline for it. If there's a deadline and I can do it, I'll be upfront about it. If not, I know plenty of woodworkers, in and around the States and around the area of people I follow that do, amazing work too, that would love to tackle, fun projects too. So
yeah, if you want quick and cheap, you can go to Etsy and get like a $100 one sent right over to you. Yeah. But that's probably not what you're going to get with yours. How else can people contact you?
So my first last name is pretty much the best way to find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So it's Stefan, and then my last name, Joens. It's spelled Joens. My first name is Stefan. Last name is Joens. Many people would think that's Steve Jones. That's my alias. So if you ever get a Steve Jones, I probably think I won't see you again in life. But if you get my real name, that means I plan to keep you around for a while.
That's awesome. And I looked when I was doing research on you, I think you're the only person with that name. So at least that I could find on Facebook or anywhere else. So you're pretty easy to find.
That I know of.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we're missing? Anything else I'm missing that we need to be asking you?
Good question. No, man, the only thing I could leave it is, if you're in the process where you're building your business up, whether you're new or whether you're working in a business, just keep the faith for yourself, believe in what you're trying to do. At the end of the day, the most important thing is you got to believe in yourself. Even if you don't know the answer to the question, you believe that you can find it. So belief doesn't mean I need to know everything. Belief means I know that I can try to find it. I know that I can go after and get that information. So, going back to the earlier part of the conversation about me moving my way through this business, I didn't know everything that these guys needed, but I believed that I could find a way to do it. So you got to start internally. You got to start with self-belief, build that level of confidence. The way to get there, I always tell people, is give yourself a couple of personal wins in life to build confidence. You can do that same thing with people on your team. You can do that same thing with anything in life, really. But people succeed when they have a level of confidence. And that comes from little wins that they get for themselves. And at the end of the day, for anybody in this world who's done 75 hard, the value of, keeping promises with yourself and how much that can do for you as a human. I've done it a few times myself already. I plan to do it again here and there in the future, or in the near future. I try to do it every year because it's a great program. It's really good just to reset yourself back to the level you need to be. But believe in yourself, even if even if you don't know the answer, believe you'll find it. That's one of the things I've believed in myself the most. And I think it's given me the ability to move myself through lots of different, challenges I've faced in life. Is I believe that I can. I believe that I'll find a way through it.
Yeah. And anybody can do that, right? You don't have to be a college graduate. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to understand how to make a furnace. right? If you believe you can do it, put yourself in a position to succeed. Obviously, you have to put yourself in that position somehow. But once you're there, and if you believe you can do it, and you say yes, like you did, you got to say yes. You got to put yourself in that position, right?
Yeah.
Believe you can do it, and you're there.
You don't earn a degree in belief. You get that for yourself,
Yeah.
by you yourself, and that's it.
Absolutely. It's amazing to hear how many super successful people say the exact same thing. I didn't know, I wasn't a rocket scientist. I didn't know anything, but I threw myself in this business. I said, you know what, fuck it. We'll see what happens. If I fail, I fail. What's the worst could happen? I'm already here, right? I'm already here. Exactly. So, I mean, the only, I could fall back to this. Other than that, I mean.
And failure doesn't mean you're dead. It might, depending on the type of business you work into. Like if you're trying to test a new parachute and it doesn't work, that could be a scenario. But failure doesn't mean you're dead. Failure means I learned something. Failure means I get a chance tomorrow to go do it again or do it better.
Yeah. And you got to take those fails. You got to keep going with failure. You've got to it's funny. Some of the most successful people, like Michael Jordan always says, right? You miss all the shots, 100% of the shots you don't take. So he missed a ton of shots. Right? Barry Bonds struck out way more times than he hit home runs. But if he didn't get up to bat all those times, he would never have hit all the home runs he hit, right? So you got to keep jumping up to the plate. You can't be afraid. Well, what if I strike out? Well, dude, you ain't playing base. You ain't even on the team yet. So you will strike out a bunch of times. You're going to have a shitty time, most of the time up to the bat. But those 5 home runs you hit, I mean, that's all that really matters, right?
I mean, shit, if you're going to use a baseball analogy, batting 300 can get you in the Hall of Fame.
Dude, that's
3 out of 10 hits. Yeah.
That's crazy. 30%.
That can get you in the Hall of Fame, Damn. So for some businesses, that might be all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you probably want to do a little better than that, but in the odds of baseball with ratios of swings and pitches and stuff, that's still pretty damn good.
And it depends on the volume you're going at. Is 30% great? What if every sale made you, $1 million and you're making 30% of your sales? It's pretty damn good. You're probably kicking ass out there. So,
for sure.
All right, Stefan, here we go.
This has been fun, man.
This is the big question.
All right.
I got it. This is all, the whole podcast is built on this.
All right.
For LandLife, I buy and sell land, right? Just dirt and trees. Not quite furnaces and painting and all that kind of stuff. I'm just a dude that sells dirt and trees. Now, if you could buy land anywhere in the world, the entire world, where would it be and why?
Good question. So for me personally, I've been to a lot of places. I've traveled a lot of the world. I have one of those little scratch off map, things so you can see all the places you've been to around the world. And when I lived in Germany, I was able to fortunately go around a lot of the countries that were around there. And I saw some really beautiful, amazing places. If I were to pick a land, I'd think about the places that I've been personally that give me the most level of peace and joy and happiness. And that is typically around mountains. That's typically around water is cool. I love water, but there's something about mountains that makes you realize a little bit of the grandiousness of how big this world can be and how big things are in this world. I would probably buy some land either in Wyoming or Montana. Montana most likely because I've been there the most, and it's surreal about up there.
It's amazing how many people say Montana. How many high successful people say Montana. Like it's not Fiji, it's not I don't know, any island paradise. Most guys say Montana. So I did not realize that I was going to get that answer, but man, it's like it's pretty consistent. It's wide open. There's beautiful mountains. There's wildlife. Not a ton of people, and you can explore. There's not too many places in this country you can explore anymore.
Have you had the chance to be around Montana at all?
I've been up in northern Wyoming, so I haven't quite made it to Montana, but I've been through Wyoming a ton, and I'll tell you right now, you won't see a person for a long time if you get out in the middle of nowhere. You're going to be walking, driving, running, whatever you decide to do. You're going to be out there. It's you and the antelope, maybe some other animals, but not a lot of people.
Absolutely, man. It's God's country. It's got that name for a reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, Stefan. Thank you so much, man.
PJ, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thank you for having me on the show and letting me give a little bit of value to your audience and so forth. And I hope it was helpful, and hopefully some people look at metal these days a little differently and give a little appreciation to how all that stuff's made.
This is like super cool. I'm going to tell a lot of people about. I met the guy that makes the little parts on Ray-Ban sunglasses and iPhones and all these little pieces everywhere. So
Absolutely.
that's super cool. All right, man.
Cool, man.
Guys, till next time, I'll see you on LandLife.
Cheers.